What's up YouTube, this is Akimo from TCG, and people have been asking I don't know, commenting in the video that they wanted to see the Tsukuyomi list and stuff like that. So today, I'm going to be giving you guys the deck list for Tsukuyomi. Make sure you smash the like button. I feel like I'm a Yugi tuber saying that, but oh well. Comment what your lists are like, because, you know, premium people sharing lists is how premium grows, and just subscribe to the channel if you want to see more premium content. So let's get straight into it. Starting off with our starter, obviously Godfall Kichibiyoshi. We can't run any other starter with this because grade 1 demands us to use this essentially, so you have to use this card. You can use the grade 0 one as well, but this one gives you the extra draw, and especially with I think her name is Yaya. Then I'm gonna get whatever the new grade 1 coming out soon. This one I think is much better because it gives you that one extra draw, and that really does save you from the sort of early game rush that a lot of decks do. So we can run that. So that's our first card. Next we'll go to grade 3s, because why not? We run 3 Goddess of the Full Moon Tsukuyomi. Now obviously, now a lot of people would probably say that why are you running this card instead of something else? This deck is a Tsukuyomi deck, so we're going to run Tsukuyomi cards. That's the first thing about that. The second thing about that is that it enables us to utilize this card, Goddess of the Full Moon, Goddess of the Moon Deity. So the Moon Deity is like something that I'll explain later on why we run that and have that sort of a bit of a more focused kind of thing. But of course, if you don't know what Goddess of the Full Moon Tsukuyomi does, just count by spawning you ditch one to draw cards equal to the amount of Tsukuyomi cards in your soul. If you draw 3, you look at the top 5. Max being 3, and max being 3. And if you look at if you draw 3, you look at the top 5, and then you put 2 onto the top of the deck and put 3 to the bottom in any order. So this is pretty much your entire stack thing. So if you go first, you ride into this. It's very easy to get the third one into soul because of the extra cards that you run in the deck. Some soul charging cards that help out as well. So it's very easy to do so, and you know. Second thing is when you reveal 2 or more triggers during a drive check this turn, all 3 of your front rows, you get plus 10k. This is all just like first turn sort of aggression, stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that you draw a bunch of cards and you get to stack your deck. So that's really good. And as well, you get to increase your stack if you go first. So we run the 4th Goddess of the Full Moon Tsukuyomi. Next we run wait, that's not it. I'm gonna do this first. 4 Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu. Now, a long time ago, back when Tsukuyomi or Goddess of the Sun first came out, I had a dream. I dreamed that I wanted to put both Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi in the same deck, but you know, you couldn't. It was difficult because this required Amaterasu, but now you don't. And here we go. So basically, this card's ability is when she is revealed by a card's effect, you bind the top card of your deck, and then your Vanguard gets plus 10k and an extra crit. So it's pretty cool. When she attacks, you also get to discard a card from your hand and look at the top 3 cards from your deck and reveal 1 normal unit from among them and put it into your hand. Then put the rest on top of your deck in any order. So basically, what you use this mostly for is an extra critical trigger. So we have a card in here called Magical Calico, which we'll get into when we get to the grade 0s. But basically, this card is meant to be revealed to give your Vanguard extra critical and extra power. So with a Momo turn, you know, that means an extra restand with the extra crit and it's much more pressure. On Ichikishima, that means they have to, if they can guard, they have to guard the Ichikishima. Otherwise, you know, it hurts. So yeah, we run 4 of this. Her rear guard skill is actually probably really important as well, because that's going to be the rear guard skill you're going to be using the most often during the game. People don't realize it, but Tsukuyomi is more of a Vanguard-centric deck, actually, in my opinion. Especially now. Goddess of the Half Moon Tsukuyomi. So, of course, because we're on into the Tsukuyomi deck, right? So we've got to run the Tsukuyomi engine. At the beginning of your right phase, you look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, put 1 card from among them into your hand, and then put the rest of the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. Then you discard a card from your hand. If you discard Goddess of the Full Moon, you get to ride it over this card. So basically, if you look at top 5, if you already have, and add 1 for free. If you already have Full Moon in your hand, you can discard that, and pretty much you're adding a card for free because you immediately ride it. So basically, combine this with a grade 1 engine as well. You're looking at essentially the top 10 cards of your deck to add 2 of whatever you want, as long as you got the full ride chain off. So that's really important in Tsukuyomi, especially in with OTT, especially because they're more of a not really combo, but they're a pretty piece reliant deck. So this card is very imperative. Her second ability doesn't matter too much. Vanguard, Rearguard, during a turn, if you have a Goddess of the Crescent Moon, Tsukuyomi, and Soul, she attacks with 12k. So it really doesn't matter too much. Can help for early game aggression against stuff like maybe Nubatama. But Jamie Kongo is banned now, so don't worry about that. Next, I keep counting from the bottom, but you know. Next on 4, Miko of the Daybreak Moon, Akizuki. Now this card is a pretty old card. You find her in GBT12, and basically what she does is that on the Rearguard circle, you can Soul +1 and give a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Tsukuyomi its card name. You get to look at the top card of your deck, and then put it to the top or the bottom. And if you put it to the bottom, she gets +2k. So it's 11k attack card, don't worry about it. She's there just for the stack as well, because if you use that stack, it gives you an extra peek if there's a crit. If there's a crit there, it's really good, it's really strong for you, especially with the Momo. The second ability, that's also why I run this card at 4. That's also why we run the grade 3 Tsukuyomi as the main Vanguard, because this card gives you an extra scry option when you're on Momo, and that's actually pretty important in my opinion, because scrying as much as possible makes the turn more threatening. And if you're running stuff like Otoga Sahime, or if you're running stuff like Susanoo, you don't actually get that scrying option with Akizuki, and it becomes, you start relying on Susanoo's first ability, or you start relying on other things as well. So this is why this card's pretty good. There's also other cards that scry, but this card I think is actually probably one of the better ones, because she has a secondary effect, and the secondary effect is that from hand, you can discard her to search your deck for a Goddess of the Crescent Moon Tsukuyomi, and immediately ride it over your God of Jibuyoshi. So essentially, with this card, we're actually running, it feels like we're running 8 copies of Goddess of the Crescent Moon. When we get the new card, we run 12 copies, and it makes the deck so much more consistent. Pretty good card. Next, we run 3 of Silent Tom. It's Ichikish. This card's become a staple. If you're running Ichikishima in the G Zone, this card has become a staple. People will say to you like, "Oh, why are you doing this? That's like cheating a win, isn't it?" Like, you know, if you're not playing to win, then why are you playing Vanguard? If you're playing like, actually, yeah, that's a pretty bad statement. It's just win more. It's just a weird card that just lets you win pretty much. It's Ichi-Tom. You can't make a deck without having Tom Matting in the deck. There's other things you can do actually with Ichikishima. You could run Yachi Marihiko and try and lock your opponent out from using a protect marker as well. That's very piece heavy, and you gotta have to know your top card of your deck, so we don't really do that. Next, the grade 1s. We run obviously 4 Goddess of the Crescent Moon Tsukuyomi. Goddess of the Crescent Moon Tsukuyomi has got the exact same thing as the grade 2. You look at the top 5, add 1 from hand, discard 1. If you discard the grade 2, so half moon, you write it on top. So that's her only ability. She's a triple red, that is her only effect. So we run more because we need them. So she's the least important. She's the most important, but also the least important. So after a while, you just chuck it down as an AK booster because Tom wants those. Next, we run 4 Halo or Bond Solid Vanguard. Now this card is the card that actually sets up the. If you go first, this card helps you draw more from Goddess of the Full Moon Tsukuyomi. So basically, what this card does is that you put a grade 2 or less card from your hand into your soul. Be mindful of that, it has to be grade 2 or less. If you put a grade 3, it's stupid. You get to look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal 1, add it to your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So this card is essentially literally made for Tsukuyomi, because what this card does, it does a bunch of things. So the first thing that it does is that it puts any card from top 3 into your hand. The second thing it does is that it reveals a card. So if you somehow if you're can't find the Calico or something, and you're doing this on a Momo turn, right, and you reveal, for example, Goddess of the Sun, Amaterasu, you're actually going to get an extra 10k in crit, and you get the Amaterasu back into your hand. So it's really strong. And on top of that, it increases it's 3 cards from your stack. So basically, it allows you to get to your stack quicker, essentially. Sometimes in this deck, I'll explain this whole entire stack strategy for those who don't really understand what I'm talking about later on. Next, for the grade 1s, we run 2 Cone Magus. This deck does go through a lot of CB, so you can run. So having Cone Magus is there is just a good failsafe and stuff like that. But you don't have to run this card. You can run, for example, the next card. Actually, I'll probably put all 4 of these at once. You can run more Tetra Magus if you want. You can send just for Pentatone. I just like the count charge. It's that's just for me though, because I run these two. Tetramagus is a counterblast 1, draw 1, then you reveal up to 1 critical trigger from your hand and put on top of your deck. So this card's a counterblast 1, draw 1, put and stack your deck with a crit. Now this is like, it's good and bad, I think, as well. Tetramagus is like very overhyped as an OTT card. It's like, you draw 1, so if you make sure you don't stack. So if you know your stack, or if you know that there's a top card, it's a normal unit, go ahead and do this. It's amazing, right? But if you stack earlier on, or if there's a stack that happens during your ride phase or something like that, then this card becomes pretty dead in your hand, because then you don't want to mess around with the stack. It's just another way to sort of get quicker as well. So we run one of this. Now this card, not many people will have seen this card before. This card is GBT05, and this card is called Virtuoso Housekeeper. So she's a Tsukuyomi based card, and what she does is that when she's placed on the rearguard circle, you can sound a counterblast 1, and you look at the top 5 cards from your deck, add any Tsukuyomi from among them, you reveal it to your opponent, and then put it to your hand, then put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. So essentially what this card is doing is that it speeds up. It's pretty much counterblast 1, add 1 Tsukuyomi from the top 5, but then speed up to your stack. So it's essentially like, when you think about crescent moon, half moon, then full moon, if you got all three of those abilities off, that's 15 cards to your stack, right? This card's an extra 5, this card's 20, and then there's a bunch of other things, like, so basically you'd be 25 cards into your stack by that point. So I'll talk more about the whole stack strategy later on as well, but this is an interesting card if you want to go with the stack strategy, or if you want to recreate the stack. So yep, that's it for the grade 1s. Onwards to the grade 0s, we're going to go with the normal unit first. We're running 2 Magical Calico. So this card, when you combine it with Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu, makes things extremely scary for the opponent. So what it does, it's got a GB1 Oracle. You can put this into your soul and then choose a card from your hand and discard it. So you search your deck for 3 cards and reveal them. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from among them and put chosen cards in your drop zone. Then you put the rest into your hand and shuffle your deck. So basically, you look at top. Basically, you choose 3. You choose 3. Your opponent chooses 2. You get the last one. Now, what this card does, how this card interacts with Amaterasu is that if you reveal 3 Amaterasus off a Calico, so if you reveal all 3 like this, your Vanguard is going to get plus 30k and 3 critical. Because how Amaterasu works is that they're all on standby. So you reveal them from your deck, they all go off at the same time. You've got to resolve Calico first, so your opponent picks whatever. So this one goes to hand, this goes to bin, these 2 go to bin. But all 3 effects were revealed, and they were all on standby. So it didn't matter. So it doesn't matter that they're not that they're nowhere to be found now. You basically just buy the top 3, and your Vanguard gets plus 30k and an extra 3 crit. So with Momo can easily become an 87k attack, 87k swing with 5 damage. If you check a critical trigger, it's like 97 with 5 damage, right? Twice. So it's a massive PG check. If your opponent's not playing a protect deck, it's very difficult for them. Things get very difficult for them. If they have double PG, then that happens. But Magical Calico, yeah. So this card you cannot use as a Forerunner. So if you're playing a deck with OTT or you're starting out with OTT, do not use this card as a Forerunner because it is banned as a Forerunner. So make sure you don't do that. You have to include it in the main deck if you want to run it. So we run 2 of that. The reason why we run 2 and not 4 is because we're looking at the top 5 from your deck anyway, and we've got multiple strategies, and we've got sort of multiple lanes that you can do. If this card shows up later in the game, you can just do it with Ejikishima, and then it's almost the same thing. If Ejikishima gets big, and your opponent has to guard with 1s and 2s only, so it's the card's pretty strong. Anything that gives your Vanguard extra power, it gives Ejikishima extra power, just misspells doom for them essentially. Because they can only guard with so many grade 1 cards. And what's the triggers? Running 9 crit. So 9 crit because you got Amaterasu for crit, and also because the other triggers are sort of kind of needed in my opinion. So obviously we're running 4 of the strike crit, because the strike crit is, it just makes it easier for you to stride. We're running 3 of Weather Gold Sendol because it's a 10k crit, and it's got the whole go with the soul effect. It's just a 10k effect trigger, so that's fantastic. And then we run 2 Kusanagi. 2 Kusanagi, it's a 30k shield, and it's very easy for it to it's a 30k shield, and 10k, it's crit. We're getting protect markers, so you don't need to go all out for the draw triggers. Speaking of draw triggers, we're running 2 of those. So weather forecast and mist. Let's play, it's a generic draw. The reason why we go 2-2 split is because you actually kind of, if you want to see this early game, then you start getting more advantage quicker. And this card, if you reveal this card in your top 5 and you get for your stack, right, it makes the stack much more bearable because you can like put a normal unit between that, so you get the normal unit into your hand, and you'll still check out the trigger. So it makes it a bit more bearable. Second thing, last thing, over trigger. I want to know. You can actually, you can if you want go with the other one. I prefer to go with this one because it needs more drive checks. And if you check this on Ichikishima turn, like I did in the video, you have more chance to check crits and sort of shoot your opponent down with Silent Toms. Now, of course, obviously I didn't check any crits. Maybe it's because I'm not running enough. I don't know. Maybe it's because of this. But I still think that this is one of the better ratios to go with the crits. You could instead of running Sendol, actually, if you're focusing more on crits and less on crit power, you can get rid of the Sendol and run 3 Battle System Muffin, because Battle System Muffin puts itself back into deck, and that's cost. So it's not like you don't have to have a Battle System Vanguard to put itself back to deck. So you can run that instead. I prefer to use this one because it's a 10k effect trigger, and there's times where you want to draw more. I want to know, but obviously, yeah, you just want to check more. This ODT is much easier at checking it because there's also another stride that you can do called Waka Hirome that stacks this card to the top of your deck if you have it in hand. So that's another strategy that you can do. However, we're not really focusing too much on that strategy, and we can like sort of make a deck based on that. I'll make a deck based on that and probably put that on Twitter later on. And yeah, obviously the last thing is 4 heal triggers. These will be replaced by Heal Guardians because Heal Guardians are much more important for Tsukuyomi. Shield, the extra 5k shield doesn't matter because you're going to be dishing them for a G Guardian anyway. And Heal Guardians are just amazing cards because they're just probably one of the best things. Besides effect draws, I think it's one of the best things to come out of B as well, Heal Guardians, just for the fact that they're grade 3s, so you can ditch them as Stride Fodder. They're heal triggers, so you can ditch them as G Guards, and they protect you so early in the game, and they just do a lot of things for the deck. So that's it for the main deck, and next we're going on to the Stride deck. So first for the Stride deck, we're going to be running, this is main Moon Deity of the Government Tsukuyomi. We're only on 2 because you're only going to go into this once. Or if you decide to. So basically what you do with her, you choose a face down, you choose the same one, face down from the G-Zone, to the face up, and you choose a card with Tsukuyomi's card name from your hand and put it into your soul. Then you look at the top 5, and you get to add 2 of the top 5, up to 2 from the top 5 to your hand, and put the rest in the bottom in any order. So if you go with the whole stack, it's got a strategy, right? Combine this with Virtuoso Housekeeper, and that's already 30 cards towards your stack. So that's you would hit the stack almost in the next turn. That's a guarantee with this. So yeah, actually yeah, you would either hit the stack next turn or this turn with this card. So it's just a way to speed up the stack essentially. It's also a card that you can go into if you're missing a lot of pieces. So like if you don't want to go into Momo because you're missing Calico, you can go into this and get another top 5 to look for a Calico. Or if you're missing things like or if you're missing Toms for your Ichikishima turn, you can go into this. This card's just a very good basically piece getter. So the first stride turn with Oracle Think Tank is usually not the strongest, so bear that in mind. The next 2 of we're running is 2 of Momo. So Momo is one's usually flip fodder, so there's that. But what she does is that when she attacks, you can counterblast 1 and turn a card from your G-Zone face up. You discard up to 3 cards from your hand, and for each card discarded, 3 of your front row units get plus 10,000 power until end of turn. If you discard 3 cards, at the end of the battle, stand this unit and get strike -2. So now, this card is your main win con. You want to go Goddess of the Sun, so you can Calico, Goddess of the Sun with Momo, and then just smack face your opponent twice. If you can't do that, you can go into Ichikishima Tom to just kill him that way. This card though, sometimes you might not actually do that and you just want to swing in, because I think, in my opinion, Oracle Think Tank is actually it's like much more thought and tested than people give it credit for. Like, for example, Silent Tom, you gotta know when to Silent Tom, obviously. And you also gotta know when to Calico. If your opponent is sitting on around 1 damage, right? I think there's no point in Calicoing. Like, yeah, sure, it's got lethal, right? It's got lethal twice. But if you're facing off against a protect deck, what you really want to be actually doing is trying to push them up with damage and making sure they hit very close to 5. Because the closer they are to 5, the less hits they can take from Silent Tom, and the less hits they can take from Silent Tom means the less chance of taking a trigger or defensive to make sure they can intercept. So there's lots of things. There's sort of various like strategies and stuff, but I think but that just comes with playing Tsukuyomi. So it's a good card. Run two only because you're not going to go into it more than twice. Next we have 2 orbs. We run Lord of Guidance Wakihirome. Now, Lord of Guidance Wakihirome is only there because if you have the Over Trigger in hand and you want to just do something with that, you can just stride into her, then stack the Over Trigger on the top of your deck, and then just have a lot of fun. You can try and maybe run rear guards that sort of benefit a lot from that. Like, for example, Yachi Hiko. If you run Yachi Hiko, then maybe you could, like, try and scry it for the top card and then try and lock your opponent's hand and what they can guard. We'll give it an auto restrict. But yeah, Wakihirome is pretty cool. There's a build that's been floating around featuring the Pisto in this card where it creates an infinite or creates a pseudo Blade Master attack loop. I'll probably make a Twitter post or a video about that later on when I actually decide to build the deck. So yeah, we run 2 Wakihirome. So next for our G-Guards, we run, well not G-Guards, more the rather strides, run 4 Ichikishima. So Ichikishima, you have to run it 4 of. I think this card is Uchi's best stride still. Like Momo, you can say, okay, cool. Momo is really strong as a first stride, but Ichikishima is the best stride. You will draw her ability, her first ability, straight up draw 2. That's nutty. That's already nutty, right? The second thing is that her Oracle ability, blocking opponents from using G-Guards and Grade Zeros. There's a reason why it's called the Ichitom combo, and it's a reason why your opponent will most often than not live. So yeah, not really much to explain about Ichikishima. It's just a 4-off card. Next for G-Guards, we run 1 Logic Apex. This doesn't matter. You don't actually need to run this. I'd like to run it because I like to expand so sort of go faster with GB, but you don't have to run that. It's also because you actually get to scry 2, sort of, and you get to add 1 to hand, so it's not bad. Next, obviously, you're running 1 Babara, and Babara's actually really funny in this deck. So you counterblast 1 when she's facing Guardian Circle, you draw 1, you reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is grade 1 or greater, you get 5k shield extra. So it's so most of the time it's going to be a 20k shield, and you draw 1 from it, so you're like not actually negging from guarding. The funny thing is that sometimes you might reveal Amaterasu, and if you do reveal Amaterasu is just going to bind itself, give your Vanguard plus 10k crit, and essentially you're just giving yourself a trigger. I want to try and make a build where it focuses on revealing units and stuff like that as well, so this would be pretty cool. As well, this card is revealed as grade 1 or greater, okay? So like if you, for example, reveal a Heal Guardian, right? It's like, oh, your opponent now knows that you have a heal on top, you know that you have a heal on top, and it's still going to get shield because it's grade 3. So this is always stuff that happens when Heal Guardians come out. Last but definitely not least, we're running 3 Son of Eternity Amaterasu. This card's your best G-Guard. Basically, what she does is that she's going to, she places herself onto Guardian, when she places herself in Guardian Circle, you soul charge 1, and then you look at the top card of your deck, you can put it on the top or the bottom, and she gets plus 10k shield. So she's just 25k shield already, so this card's just a really, really strong G-Guard. So that's it for the deck profile. I'm gonna sort of maybe ramble on a bit about the stack. So the first thing about the stack is that, if you're new to Oracle Think Tank and you don't know what I mean by the stack, basically what the stack is that since you get to rearrange the bottom of your deck, essentially, you're rearranging to make sure you get the trigger, when the triggers are going to start showing up. So the more you put to the bottom of the deck, the more you get closer to your stack. And your stack could be like crit, stuff like that. It's very difficult to remember the stack, so I would suggest not remembering what's in, like the exact order of the cards in the stack, but rather start remembering, start counting cards, remember to keep counting down. So in your head, what I like to do is that, I like to start counting down from the stack if the stack has got if the stack has got triggers. So basically, if your first stack revealed, for example, your first Effector Gods of Crescent Moonseek, you only revealed 1 trigger and 4 normal units, it's not really that good of a stack, because guess what, there's only 1 trigger. I don't want to focus too much on that. So you just ignore that. If you get to Half Moon though, and Half Moon reveals like 3 triggers, for example, 3 crits or something, you can put those 3 crits. You start counting down from there, and then you start counting down in your head. Make sure you're not saying it out loud, because then you're telling your opponent, oh, this is how many cards there was a stack, right? Also, when you're putting your deck back or stuff like that, some people would say for example, this is on your stack, right? 3 triple heal, right? Some people will put the deck like that. Just remember that the stack is here. Don't do that, because that also tells your opponent that the stack's coming up. I think if you want to do practice matches, start doing that first, but trying to get into the habit of like counting down whenever you put cards, whenever you draw a bunch, whenever you draw a card, count down. Whenever you like bangle, count down. Whenever you drive check, count down. It's all that kind of stuff. So that's just some tips for the stack. Don't start remembering the stack if there's nothing worth remembering in the stack. So otherwise you're just gonna hurt your brain for no reason. So yep. That's it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you sort of gained a more understanding of why I run Tsukuyomi why I run Oracle Think Tank as I do. There's a lot of different avenues you can go with Oracle Think Tank, so maybe I'll be showcasing a lot more different deck profiles for that later on. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more Carbide Vanguard and especially premium content. Cheers!